All right, now let's discuss this further. We're now joined by Professor of Public Law at the University of Cape Town, Professor Cathleen Powell. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Well, we know that these reports come as the International Criminal Court is investigating Hamas's October attack and Israel's military assault on Hamas-ruled Gaza. Now, in its 7th month, these investigations are. How likely then are we to see these warrants of arrest being issued to individuals, and how will the ICC go about it? Perhaps explain all of that, those developments.
Afternoon, Renata, and thank you. I think point number one is we're talking about rumours at this stage. So I can talk about how generally the ICC works, but the panic in Israel at the moment, or the outrage, or the suspicion that warrants are about to be issued against Israeli leaders is at the moment simply a rumour. We have absolutely no information officially from the prosecutor or from the ICC. When the ICC does release warrants of arrest or charges, those are done against individuals because that's how the ICC works. The International Criminal Court is about individual criminal responsibility. So there may be organizations also charged, but generally that would be when you're dealing with an entire apparatus. And that kind of group accusation is what you're going to talk about when you talk about a state committing aggression, for example. But the actual persons responsible for crimes under the ICC can only ever be individuals. So if and when those warrants come out, it'll be against individuals, much as there was a warrant against Putin for the deportation of children from Ukraine. So that wasn't against the state of Russia, it was against Putin himself. Now, when the ICC investigates a matter, it investigates all the crimes that have occurred around that matter. So that would include, as you pointed out, the Hamas attacks of October the 7th last year, and it will include what Israel has done in response. So when the warrants come out, depending on which time frame and events the prosecutor has chosen to focus on, we are likely to see warrants against a range of war criminals, not just the Israeli side. But again, it's impossible to forecast when all we're dealing with are unsubstantiated rumors.
And of course, you are right, that these are rumors at this stage. We also know, of course, that the ICC chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, also has not confirmed any of this. We did see, though, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu go on X, over the weekend and saying that under my leadership, Israel will never accept any attempt by the ICC to undermine its inherent right of self-defense. We also, saw other reports saying, in fact, to do this, the ICC would need to somehow consult with the US over overt or tactical, support. I mean, how would the IEC manage this, given what we're seeing Benjamin Netanyahu say on X, and also this consideration that they might have to consult with the US? Just explain that for us in terms of their independence.
No, they don't have to consult with the United States. The United States is not a state party to the Rome Statute. It's not a member of the ICC. It has taken several steps to try to block the ICC, but it has no legal power over the decisions of the International Criminal Court or over how the court runs its business. Admittedly, it may try to bring political pressure behind the scenes, but it cannot legally stop the ICC from doing anything or make the ICC do anything. Now, the only way that the ICC is going to need cooperation, but that's from every state, not just the US, is it's got to actually get the accused people into its hands. Now, while Netanyahu stays in Israel, assuming that he's one of the accused against whom a warrant is issued, he's safe because the ICC doesn't have its own police force or army to invade Israel and go and fetch Netanyahu and bring him to the court in The Hague. But the moment Netanyahu starts to travel, If he ends up in a state which is the state party to the ICC, then the ICC could issue an instruction that Netanyahu be surrendered to the ICC. And as South Africans, we know this scenario because that's exactly what we were facing when Putin wanted to come to the BRICS conference last year and eventually had to be piped in via Zoom because South Africa would have had to arrest him. So the cooperation that the ICC is going to need against any of the people against whom it issues a warrant is that the states where they end up have to be prepared to surrender them to the ICC.
Of course, this process is different to what we are seeing at the International Court of Justice. But perhaps, Prof, you can talk to us about, how these two cases align, given that, Israel stands accused of a genocide at the ICJ.
Well, the ICJ doesn't deal with criminal responsibility at all, and it doesn't deal with individuals. So it hears cases between states, or it makes advisory opinions if requested by a body in the United Nations. At the moment, it's got both. It's got a request for an advisory opinion on Israel by the General Assembly, but it's also got a case by South Africa, which other states have now joined, against Israel. If it finds that Israel is responsible, it won't even use the word guilty, but responsible for genocide against Palestine or the people of Gaza, then it will order reparations, which can include fines and an apology and a number of measures that are meant to put right what has been done wrong. But it's not actually going to imprison anybody because it's not making a finding against individuals, it's making a finding against the state. And we do not in international law accept the idea that a state can have criminal responsibility.
I don't know if you've answered this, Prof, in terms of just the success rate of the ICC. We are seeing, of course, that it has several cases in front of it at the moment, ranging from various investigations with various countries, including also in, Ukraine, some countries in Africa, including Uganda, the DRC, and Congo. They also have issued out about 42 arrest warrants. I mean, have we seen any successful kind of convictions in as far as the ICC is concerned, especially high-profile ones?
It's a chance when a state itself refers a matter to the ICC. In other words, it refers to the ICC its own situation, because then it will also surrender the accused for trial and the matter can proceed pretty smoothly. Remember, it's one choice by the prosecutor whether to prosecute, whether that arrest warrant goes out. But it's once the matter actually gets to trial, it's a normal criminal trial. You need the right evidence brought, you have a prosecutor, you have a defense counsel, and you have judges. So once that happens, it's pretty plain sailing, with the caveat that it's quite difficult to gather the evidence and bring it to The Hague. I mean, you're dealing with huge, complex and severe atrocities, and it is sometimes difficult to just get the evidence that you need. But generally, once it gets to the case at the point of the trial can run. I think where the ICC has more trouble is when it is investigating a case brought by one state with respect to what's happening in another state, such as South Africa bringing Israel to the ICC, or Ukraine complaining about what Russia is doing to Ukraine and might be happening in Ukraine, and that's why the ICC would have jurisdiction there. But the actual people that the ICC would have to prosecute and have to act against are Russian. So that makes it far more difficult. And in those cases, the success is dependent on getting your hands on the people.
Absolutely. Prof, thank you so much for your time and, of course, your analysis. Professor Cathleen Powell, Professor of Public Law at the University of Cape Town, of course, discussing their speculation and ongoing media reports about the imminent move by the prosecutor of the ICC against senior Israeli leadership is growing, with several reports, of course, saying that there are imminent arrest warrants. Of course, at this stage, these are just speculations and reports. nothing has been confirmed so far. But we will bring you the latest in as far as that is concerned.